Leading up to every single draft, we see the major outlets give comparisons for all the top prospects in the class. Some pan out pretty well, but some are just laughable looking back. So as we do every year, today I want to look at some of the worst recent comparisons. If you guys like my content, smash the like and sub button. Let's go for 25 likes on today's video, and let's get into this. Because of how well known their comparisons are, in fact, they list comparisons for every single prospect. Most of these comparisons will be from NBADraft.net, but we will sprinkle in some from other outlets. We're going to do around 5 from the last 3 drafts, so let's start by going to 2020, where we definitely had some good ones. Starting at the top, I think we've got to go with James Wiseman. Now, to their credit, they didn't get overly aggressive with the Wiseman comparison. They decided to give a comparison of DeAndre Jordan, but I think it's safe to say that missed the mark. DeAndre Jordan, while he definitely wouldn't have the same value in the modern game, was a dominant pick and roll threat and one of the league's elite rim protectors. James Wiseman, on the other hand, is yet to do anything on the NBA court other than the occasional empty stat stuffing stretches. His struggles on defense have sent him back and forth between the G League. I still think there's a bright future ahead. I just don't get the feeling that's going to be in a Warriors uniform. Today's video is sponsored by PrizePicks, a sports pick'em platform that's actually legal in over 30 US states. By picking more or less on certain player stats, you can now win up to 25 times your entry. It's been a lot of fun lately as they've been having tons of promos going on due to the holiday season. If you guys tailed our last entry, with the help of our free square, we hit a 10x, and today, I'm looking to make it back to back. We've got a small NBA slate, but I still really like a few squares. I'm going with Bradley Beal points as he's gotten there for the last 5. For some correlation, I'm going to combo that with Monte Morris assists. And then I'm going to go Trey Jones rebounds as he's also gotten there in 4 of the last 5. I'm also going to throw in a football square, going with Trevor Lawrence passing yards tonight, as it's only at 213, which just seems way too low for a guy that's gone over 300 in the last 2 games. All this happens, my $50 entry turns into $500. If you guys want to play along or make your own entry, go to the link in the description, download PrizePicks, and if you use code JIMMER, they're going to give you a deposit match up to $100. Once you do that, keep an eye out for all the promos they have going on. Thank you PrizePicks for sponsoring today's video. The very next selection of the draft probably had the most laughable comparison, and that was LaMelo getting compared to Sean Livingston. While yes, they both had very similar frames, they really couldn't be much more different as players. Livingston never reached double-figure scoring numbers for a single season. On his entire career, he made a whopping 13 threes. LaMelo had hit 13 threes a couple weeks into his NBA career. He's gone on to become one of the top young guards in the league. This year, while he hasn't played too many games, he's averaging 23 points and 7 assists, shooting 40% from 3 on 11 attempts a game. That puts him on pace to beat Livingston's career three-pointers made every 3 games he plays. Insane. Then we've got some players that have really broken out this season. The 12th overall pick to the Kings, Tyrese Haliburton, came into the draft looked at as a low-risk, low-reward prospect, which led to comparisons like none other than Dante Exum, a former top pick that averaged less than 6 points a game throughout his career. Now, to be fair, I don't think many expected what we've seen from Haliburton, but that comparison was definitely pretty disrespectful. So far this year, Haliburton is averaging 20 points on amazing efficiency, along with a league-leading nearly 11 assists a game. Then there's Desmond Bane, a player that's ascended to being one of the better both three-point shooters and 2 guards in the NBA. After 4 really solid years at TCU, he fell to the end of the first round in the hands of the Memphis Grizzlies. Coming into the draft, he was looked at as a future, decent 3-point shooting role player, which is why we saw the comparison of Courtney Lee. Probably fair at the time, but he's blown this out of the water. Lee was a career less than 10-point a game scorer. Bane is averaging 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, shooting 45% from 3 on 9 attempts a game. Insane. Another one that failed to come close is Isaac Okoro, getting the comparison of OG Anunoby. Now, I do see where they were coming from, as they were both relatively unproductive college scorers, but given their frame and athleticism, they had tons of potential and what felt like guaranteed defense. Since this comparison though, Anunoby has become one of the better two-way wings in the entire league, averaging 19 points while also being in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Okoro, on the other hand, has seen his role absolutely collapse in Cleveland, and this season is averaging just 4 points a game. Now we take the jump to last year's 2021 draft. Obviously it's early, but I still think we have a pretty good idea with a lot of these guys. The Cade ones were ridiculous, but I still think he has legit all-NBA potential, so especially with him being out for the rest of the year, I'm going to wait on him. The first of the top picks whose comparison really jumps out to me is Jalen Suggs. Suggs was deemed the clear top point guard in this class. In the eyes of many, one of the safest prospects. He got the comparison of both Jason Kidd and De'Aaron Fox. That gives you a pretty good idea of the thoughts surrounding him at the time. People thought he was going to have an extremely well-rounded game while still having a solid amount of upside as a scorer. Sadly though, it's been a struggle to this point. Sure, he's had his stretches, but he's averaged 12 points on atrocious 37-24 splits. With the very next selection, we saw the Oklahoma City Thunder go with Australian point guard Josh Giddey. Now the comparison he received, I just thought was pretty lazy, and that's Joe Ingles. It was clearly stemming from the fact that they're both from Australia. Now I don't think Giddey has necessarily blown away the expectation, they're just very different players. Ingles is a wing that was a super solid 3-point shooter and half-court playmaker, especially for his position. Giddey is a true point guard, despite what the Thunder list positionally in the starting lineup. He's one of the best passers in the league. He's become super solid attacking the rim, but he's struggled to prove he's going to be a reliable perimeter threat. Very different to Joe Ingles in my opinion. The next selection was Jonathan Kuminga, a player that came into the league with super high expectations after being top pick bound for nearly his entire career leading up to that draft. Despite a pretty rough showing in the G League, he received the comparison of one of the league's top wings, Jaylen Brown. Again, I see where they were going, given who Brown was as a prospect and the growth he's seen throughout his NBA career, but this was pretty aggressive. Brown is averaging 26, 7, and 4, shooting 50% from the field. In his second season, Kuminga's averaging just 7 points. While definitely still showing potential, I don't think 26 points a game is really ever in the cards. Now I know some of you are rushing to the comments with some of these guys, saying, well, Jaylen Brown wasn't averaging 26 a game 2 years ago, and yes, you are right. He was averaging just 25. Then we've got some guys from this class that really exceeded expectations, and I think those are pretty clear. The 8th overall pick to the Magic, Franz Wagner, got the comparison of Nemanja Bjelica, a player that averaged less than 8 points a game in his entire career. Now coming into the draft, I definitely thought Wagner would be a long-term project, but that's been far from the case so far. Wagner in just his second season is averaging 24 and 4. The Magic definitely have something there. Then we actually have someone that went in the second round of the draft, so it's really no surprise their comparison was off. We're talking about Herb Jones of the Pelicans. He got the comparison of Wes Iwundu, a solid defender, but a guy that stuck around in the league for just 5 seasons and averaged just over 4 points. Herb Jones is now averaging 10 points a game, on pace to become one of the league's premier defenders. I can guarantee you he's going to be around much longer than 5 years. Then lastly, we've got the most recent 2022 draft. Now this is fun, but there's no question it's early. A year from now, I could look like an absolute fool, but I still think we have an okay idea. I think we've got to have Benedict Mathurin, who's been one of the bigger surprises of the entire season. Right now, he looks like a future star for Indiana, averaging 18 points a game, and he's doing this coming off the bench. I think it's pretty clear the future is bright, but outlets were super conservative with their comparisons, especially for a guy that went at the top of the draft. Bleacher Report went with Tim Hardaway Jr., specifically citing their struggles to hit high percentage shots. Mathurin's a guy that could easily be scoring 20 a game next season. Then we've got Ousmane Dieng, who NBA Draft Room decided to compare to Kyle Anderson with shades of Paul George. Kyle Anderson still might be fair, but including Paul George in the comparison, it doesn't matter if you put shades, seems a little ridiculous right now. He's averaging just 4 points on 42-29 splits. Another comparison I'm just struggling to see where they were going is Jalen Williams, who NBA Draft.net compared to Joshua Primo. Now, as most of you know, Primo's career has been put on pause due to off-court situations, but when he was out there, he was a ball-dominant point guard that averaged 6 points on terrible efficiency. Williams, on the other hand, is a wing that's made his presence known quickly with his combination of on and off ball ability, averaging 11 points, shooting 51% from the field. They continued their odd comparisons, comparing the Spurs top pick, Jeremy Sohan, to Kyle Kuzma. He's been nothing to write home about as a scorer, but so far, he's been really intriguing going forward given his ability to impact the game outside of it. Kyle Kuzma is quite literally the exact opposite. He can't do much outside of scoring, but to his credit, he can do that pretty well, averaging 20 points a game this season, making him one of the more intriguing trade candidates currently. Then lastly, we've got to have Johnny Davis. This shouldn't be a surprise. He was getting tons of praise for his offensive potential leading up to the draft, which got him the comparison of Manu Ginobili, one of the most creative shot creators of our generation. Davis's shot creating ability, while it's obviously extremely early, has looked non-existent. He looked terrible in the preseason and the summer league, and right now is averaging just 1 point, shooting 27% from the field, barely able to get on the court, and spending most of his time in the G League. But that's the video, guys. You guys tell me your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, smash the like and sub button, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.